Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today as we go over our first module in this course. So let's get started. So this course is Intro to Procreate, and our first module that we're going to be going over is basically just introducing the program to you. I want you guys to kind of get comfortable with the program because I believe that in order to be able to advance and to master digital art or Procreate specifically, that you do have to get comfortable first with the program because it is a very wonderful program that it has a lot to offer. So I just want to introduce you guys to that and get you a little more comfortable. If you have any questions at all during this course or while we're going over this module, this is my contact information, my email, my work phone, and my online office hours. So if you have any questions at all or just want to conversate about it or anything at all like that, just get up with me and I would gladly do so. So these are going to be our learning objectives for module number 1. The first one is students will analyze and identify the parts of the program. So as we get further into the module and you download the program onto your device and kind of look around, and that will be guided. I will help you guys out with that. We're just going to do some analyzing and we're going to identify each part of the program because like I said earlier, there are so many parts to it, and I know that can be really confusing or even overwhelming for some. I know that when I first started using it, it was a little confusing. I had to find a lot of YouTube tutorials and things like that to help me truly understand each part of the app. So next is students will demonstrate how to use each part of the program. So as I said, because there are so many pieces and tools to the program, think that there are some tools that don't get used as much, so they aren't talked about as much. So it's kind of hard to figure out how they work because not a lot of people talk about them. So that's what I'm going to be going over. So we're going to use how to use each specific piece of the program, what it does, how it works, how you can utilize it while you're creating, some tips and tricks, things like that. Next, students will design an art piece using each part of the program. So this will be kind of, because I want to be able to see that you understand each piece and that you're completing the learning objectives, because I don't want to just information dump all of this onto you and then it be overwhelming and you not understand it and it just get lost in translation. So by my students showing me that they can complete these learning objectives by creating an art piece, using each piece of the program that we go over, it will help me kind of better understand where you're at so we can go from there. So it will just be a simple little assignment, not really necessarily judging your art because, you know, that is subjective to each person, but I will be kind of getting an understanding of where you are in your understanding of each piece of the program and how each tool works. So I just want to go ahead and get started into this. So the program that we're going to be using is Procreate. And on the left here is what the app looks like once it's downloaded onto your device. And I will say, sadly, that this program does not work on Android devices. It only will work on Apple devices, which is kind of a downside, but you know, that's just how it is. And on the right here, if you'll just take a quick look, as you can see already, there's kind of a lot going on here. So up top, we have kind of our main tools that we'll be using. Obviously, we have the gallery. What it is showing right now is the brush library. So if you can look at the brush library really quick, on the left where it says, you know, sketching, inking, drawing, painting, all of that, are categories, and each category has multiple brushes that you can use. So for example, as it's showing here, where it says inking, we have syrup, thylacine, fine tip, technical pen, gel pen, and there are so many brushes just in this one category. right? And as you can see here, we have multiple categories from sketching all the way to water. So it can be a lot, and that is just the brush library. There's so much more to get into, but this is just the brush library. And then as you can see here on the very left side of the program here, you can see these little like sliders, and that will be your brush size, and at the bottom it would be your brush opacity. And then this little tiny little square right here, once we get into like settings and changing your settings to your liking, you can use that box for many different tools. And along with this, that's not even shown, is if you do have an Apple Pen or a stylus, you can program that stylus for different tools. Like for example, I have an Apple Pen that goes with my iPad Pro, and I have my settings to where when I double tap my Apple Pen, it will change from a brush to an eraser. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to do that. You can make it go back, you can change a layer, you can do all kinds of things with that, and that's what we're kind of going to get into a little bit. So that, because like it's such a big program that you want it to kind of work for you, because no one wants to be creating art and then have all these issues because you don't know where something's at, or it's not set to your liking, or it becomes a hassle. And then I believe when creating becomes a hassle, it makes you no longer want to create, which is what we do not want. So on to the next slide. And basically this is kind of what you just saw. However, it's kind of laid out for you, and this is going to be posted in our Canvas, so if you want to come back and look at it, or if you're creating and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't remember what this tool is for, you will have this to come back to. So let's get started. I'm going to start at the top left where it says return to gallery. So in your program, you have a gallery, which is where all your art is going to be stored, and if you get to a blank canvas and you want to go back, you will just click the return to gallery button. So to the right of that, we have like a little wrench. That is going to be the action. So this is where a lot of your settings come in. This is a lot of where you will change the DPI of your canvas, that we'll get into that and what's, the preferred DPI, and things like that. That's really a lot of the technical stuff, or where the technical stuff will be. And then to the right of the wrench, I guess that's supposed to be like a little magic wand, but that is going to be your adjustments. That's also a little more of the technical side, but it's a lot, like there's a lot of things you can do with that. I have seen, there's a lot of like, but it's kind of hard to describe, but I guess kind of the effects that you can put on it. There's a lot of, distortion tools on there, things like that. You can adjust pieces of your art if you don't want to adjust the whole canvas, things like that. And getting into that, to the right of the little magic wand is like a little S button, and that is selection. And that kind of goes along with what I was just talking about. The selection button is a really, really, really awesome button that I love so much, because while you're creating, if there is a little piece or a little section that you would like to take out or put in or change the lighting of, that is where you're going to go, is to the selection button. And then to the right of that, we have the transform button. The transform button is really, so like, for example, what I will do is I will click the selection button, I will select a piece of my art, and then I will go to the transform button, and here you can distort it, you can move it around, you can stretch it, you can pull it inward. There's so much you can do with that, but that is just the 4 main categories we have here. Okay, so moving on to the very right, we have paint, which is where you're going to find all of your brushes. They're not just paint brushes, there's like ink, there's all kinds of stuff you can find. Next is the smudge button, which is kind of self-explanatory. So you'll do all your smudging. Eraser, self-explanatory, and all of the smudges and erasers have different brush settings. Alright, and next we have layers. So each piece of your work, you can create multiple layers, or you can just do one layer. It's up to you, and we'll get more into that as we start creating. And then to the very right of that, we have colors. This is where you're going to find all of your colors, all of your color palettes. You can mix colors, you can change the saturation on them. It's all up to you, but that is where you're going to get all of your colors to paint with. Now on the very left here, on the side, it's not on the top bar, it's a sidebar. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but as you can see, you have your brush size slider. So as you go further down, the brush is going to get smaller, and as you go farther up, the brush is going to get bigger. Then you have your modify button, and like I said, it can be changed to whatever tool you want it to be that's in the settings. Under that, we have brush opacity. And the farther down you go, the lighter your opacity is going to be. And the farther up you go, the darker your opacity is going to be. So opacity is basically, so if you have a higher opacity, it's going to be a very thick brush. It's going to be, you're going to see it very well. And then the lower you go, it's going to kind of blend a little more. And that can come very handy in different things that you're creating. Now, right under that, as you can see, there are two arrows. One is pointing to the left and one is pointing to the right. So this is your undo and redo button. Very, very helpful. If you accidentally, your hand hits the screen and it creates a line you don't want, instead of having to get your eraser out, you can just click your undo button. Or if you accidentally deleted something, you deleted a layer, you put a line you didn't want, you erased something by accident, you can always click the redo button and it will put it right back onto your screen. So basically that's all I have to cover for today. We will probably go into a little more detail later, but for right now, that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you guys so much for joining me again. I'm so excited to see you guys utilize and show me exactly what you can create with all of these elements. And I'm not asking, for some grand art piece. Obviously, I just want to know that you guys are getting something from this lecture, that you're getting a better understanding. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see what you guys create, and I will see you in the next video.